Hello everyone, and welcome back to Project Moon Audiobooks. This is part 9 of the Odyssey, which will cover books 21 and 22. I hope you enjoy. Book 21, An Archery Contest. With glinting eyes, Athena put a thought into the mind of wise Penelope, the daughter of Icarius, to place the bow and iron axes in the hall of great Odysseus and set the contest which would begin the slaughter. She went to her own room. Her muscular, firm hand picked up the ivory handle of the key, a hook of bronze. Then with her slaves she walked down to the storeroom where the master kept his treasure, gold and bronze and well-wrought iron. The curving bow and deadly arrows lay there, given by Iphitus, Eurytus' son, the godlike man he happened to befriend at wise Ortilochus' house, far off in Lacedaemon, in Messenia. Odysseus had gone to claim a debt. Some people of Messenia had come in rowing boats and poached 300 sheep from Ithaca. They took their shepherds, too. Laertes and the other older men had sent Odysseus to fetch them back when he was still a boy, and Iphitus had come there for his horses, 12 fine mares, each suckling a sturdy mule. These horses would later cause his death, when he had gone to visit Heracles, who welcomed him, but killed him, so that he could take the horses, betraying hospitality, and heedless about the watchful gods. Before all that, when Iphitus first met Odysseus, he gave this bow to him, inherited from his own father, and Odysseus gave Iphitus a sword and spear, to mark their bond. But Iphitus was dead before the friends could visit one another's houses, so when Odysseus's black fleet sailed to war, he did not take the bow, but stored it in his own house, to use in Ithaca in memory of his friend. The queen had reached the storeroom, and she stepped across the threshold of polished oak. A skillful carpenter had set it level, fixed the frame, and built the dazzling double doors. She quickly loosed the door thong from its hook, pushed in the key, and with true aim, thrust back the fastenings. The fine doors, as the key struck home, began to bellow as a bull at pasture bellows. At once they flew apart. She stepped inside, onto the pallet where the scented clothes were stored in chests, and reached to lift the bow down from its hook, still in its shining case. She sat down on the floor to take it out, resting it on her lap, and started sobbing and wailing as she saw her husband's bow. At last she dried her eyes, and in her arms picked up the curving bow and quiver, packed with many deadly arrows, and she went to meet her arrogant suitors. Slaves lugged out a hamper with their master's many axes of bronze and iron for the competition. The queen came near the suitors, and she stopped beside a pillar with a filmy veil across her face. 2 slave girls stood with her. She said, "Now listen, lords. You keep on coming to this house every day to eat and drink, wasting the wealth of someone who has been away too long. Your motives are no secret. You want to marry me. I am the prize. So I will set a contest. This great bow belonged to godlike King Odysseus. If anyone can grasp it in his hands and string it easily, and shoot through all 12 axes, I will marry him, and leave this beautiful rich house, so full of life, my lovely bridal home. I think I will remember it forever, even in my dreams." She told Eumaeus he should set the bow and pale gray iron axes up before the suitors, and in tears the swineherd took them, and did as she had asked. The cowherd wept also when he saw his master's bow. Antinous began to scold and taunt them. He said, "You idiots! You tactless peasants! So thoughtless, so undisciplined! You fools! Your selfish crying is upsetting her. Poor lady, she is sad enough already at losing her beloved husband. Sit and eat in silence, or go do your wailing outside, and leave us suitors here to try the deadly contest of the bow. I think it will be difficult. Not one of us can match Odysseus. I saw him once in childhood, and I still remember him." He hoped he would be first to string the bow and shoot through all the axes, but he would be first to taste an arrow from the hands of great Odysseus, whom he had mocked, urging the others on to do the same. Then Prince Telemachus addressed them all. "Zeus must have made me stupid. My dear mother, despite her usual common sense, has said that she will marry someone else and leave this house. But I am laughing, and my heart feels foolish gladness. Well, come on, you suitors. You want this prize. A woman unlike any in holy Pylos, Argos, or Mycenae, or here in Ithaca, or on the mainland. No woman in Achaea is like her. There is no need for me to praise my mother. You know her worth. So do not make excuses. Do not put off the contest of the bow. We want to watch, and I will try myself. If I succeed in stringing it and shooting all through, I will no longer mind if mother goes off with someone else and leaves me here. Success would prove me man enough to carry my father's arms." He stood up straight and tall, tossed off his purple cloak, unstrapped his sword, and dug a trench to set the axes up, all in a line, and trod the earth down flat. They were amazed to see him work so neatly, though he had never seen it done before. He stood astride the threshold and began to try the bow. 3 times his muscles trembled, straining to draw it back. 3 times he failed to string the bow and shoot all through the axes. He would have tried a 4th time. He was keen to keep on pulling. But Odysseus shook his head, stopping him. Telemachus said, It seems that I will always be too weak and useless. Or perhaps I am too young and inexperienced at fighting in self-defense when someone starts a quarrel. You all are stronger than I am. You try, and we can end this contest." With these words, he set the bow down on the floor, propped up against the polished, jointed double door, and tucked the arrow up against the handle. He sat back down where he had sat before. Antinous called out, "Now, friends, get up, from left to right, beginning with the man next to the wine-slave." They agreed. The first was Leides, their holy man, who always sat in the farthest corner by the wine-bowl. He was the only one who disapproved of all their bullying. He grasped the bow and stood astride the threshold, and he tried to string it, but he failed. His hands were soft, untrained by labor, and he grew worn out trying to pull it back. He told the suitors, "My friends, I cannot do it. Someone else should have a turn. This bow will take away courage, life force, and energy from many noble young men. But better we should die than live and lose the goal for which we gather in this house every day. Each man still hopes for marriage with Odysseus's wife, Penelope. But if one tries and fails to string the bow, let him go use his wealth to court some other fine, well-dressed Greek lady. And after that, Penelope will marry whichever man can bring most gifts for her, the man whom fate has chosen." With these words, he set the bow back down and leaned it up against the polished, jointed double door, tucking the pointed arrow by the handle. Antinous responded with a jeer. "My goodness, Leides, what scary words! All your tough talk has made me really angry. You cannot string the bow, so you are claiming that it will take the life from proper men. You surely were not born for archery. The rest of us are actual warriors. We will soon string this bow." He told the goatherd, "Melanthius, come on now. Light a fire and pull a chair beside it, with a fleece, and bring out from the pantry a big hunk of fat, so we young men can warm the bow, grease it, and try it, and so end this contest." Melanthius obeyed at once. He lit a blazing fire, and pulled a chair beside it, spreading a fleece on top, and brought the wheel of fat. The young men warmed the bow, but still they could not string it. They were far too weak. Antinous and Eurymachus, the leaders, strongest and most impressive of the suitors, had still not had their turn. Meanwhile, the swineherd and cowherd had both gone outside the house. Odysseus himself came after them, and when they were outside the gates, beyond the courtyard, in a friendly voice he said, "Cowherd and swineherd, I am hesitating whether to speak out openly. My impulse is to be frank. What if some god should guide Odysseus, and suddenly, as if from nowhere, he was here? How would you act? Would you be with the suitors, or with him? How are your hearts inclined?" The cowherd said, "O Father Zeus, please make this wish come true, that he may come. May spirits guide him home, that you would see how well prepared I am to fight for him." Eumaeus prayed in turn that all the gods would bring Odysseus back home. The man who thought of everything now knew their minds, and said to them, "I am here now. I suffered terribly for 20 years, and now I have come back to my own land. I see that you two are the only slaves who welcome my arrival. I have not heard any others praying I would come back to my home. I promise, if some god brings down the noble suitors by my hands, I will give each of you a wife and wealth, and well-constructed houses near my own. You two will be Telemachus's brothers. Now let me show you clearer proof, so you can know me well and trust me. See my scar, made by the boar's white tusk, when I had gone to hunt on Mount Parnassus with my cousins." So saying, he pulled back his rags and showed the great big scar. They stared and studied it, then both burst into tears. They threw their arms around Odysseus and kissed his face and hugged him, overjoyed at seeing him. Odysseus embraced them back and kissed them. They would have wept till sunset, but he stopped them and said, "Stop now. If someone steps outside and sees you crying, they may tell the men. Go in, not both at once, but taking turns. First me, then you, then you. And this will be our sign. When all the noblemen refuse to let me have the bow and set of arrows, then you must bring them through the hall, Eumaeus, and put them in my hands. Command the women to shut up tight the entrance to the hall, and go to their own quarters. If they hear men screaming or loud noises, they must not come out, but stay there quietly and work. And you, Philotius, lock up the gates leading out from the courtyard with the bolt, and put the rope on too. We must move fast." With that, he went inside, and sat back down on the same chair he sat on earlier. Then the two slaves went in. Eurymachus was handling the bow and warming it, turning it back and forth beside the fire. But even after that, he could not manage to string it, and he groaned and yelled in fury. "This is disastrous, for all of us! I do not even mind so much about the marriage. There are lots of other women on Ithaca, and in the other cities. But that we would be proven so much weaker than King Odysseus, that we should fail to string his bow. Our deep humiliation will be well known for many years to come." Antinous said, "No, Eurymachus, it will not be like that, as you well know. No one should shoot a bow today. It is a feast day for Apollo. We should sit calmly and leave the axe heads standing there. No one will come and take them. Let the boy pour wine, so we can make drink offerings, and leave the bow for now. At dawn, call back Melanthius to bring the finest goats, so we can make our offerings to the god Apollo, lord of archery, then try the bow again, and finish up the contest." They all agreed with him. Attendants poured water to wash their hands, and boys began to mix the wine in bowls, and poured a serving in every cup, so they could make libations and drink. Odysseus, the lord of lies, had carefully considered how to fool them. He said, "Now hear me, suitors of the queen. Let me reveal the promptings of my heart. Eurymachus and Lord Antinous, I ask you specially, because you spoke so well. Now set the bow aside and turn towards the gods. At dawn, the god will choose the victor and give him success. For now, give me the polished bow, so I can try my strength and find out if my hands still have the suppleness and vigor of my youth, or if it has been lost in all my years of homelessness and poverty." They bristled, nervous in case he strung the polished bow. Antinous said, "Foreigner, you fool! Are you not grateful that we let you stay here and eat with noblemen like us, and share our feast, and hear us talk? No other beggars can hear our conversation. This good wine has made you drunk. It does have that effect on those who gulp and fail to pace themselves. Wine even turned the famous centaur's head. When Eurytion visited the Lapiths, inside the house of brave Pirithous, the wine made him go crazy, and he did terrible things. The warriors were outraged and dragged him from the house. Their ruthless swords cut off his ears and cropped his nose right off. He wandered, still insane and blown about by gusts of madness. From that day, the centaurs and humans have been enemies. His drinking was harmful to himself. If you should string that bow, it would be worse for you. No man will treat you kindly in our house. We will send you by ship to Echetus, the king of cruelty. You will find no escape. Sit quietly, drink up, and do not quarrel with younger men." Astute Penelope said, "No, Antinous, it is not right to disrespect a guest Telemachus is welcome to this house. And do you think that if this stranger's hands were strong enough to string the bow, he would take me away to marry him and live with him? Of course not. He does not even dream of such a thing. No need to spoil the feast by worrying about such things. There is no need of that." Eurymachus said, "Shrewd Penelope, it is indeed unlikely that this man would marry you. But we would feel ashamed if some rude person said, 'Those men are weak. They court a fighter's wife, but cannot string his bow. Some random beggar has shown up and strung it easily, and shot right through all of the axes.' They will talk like that, and we will be humiliated." Calmly, Penelope replied, "Eurymachus, people who waste the riches of a king have lost their dignity. Why fuss at this? The stranger is quite tall and muscular. His father must be noble. Go on, give him the bow, and let us watch. I tell you, if he strings it by the blessing of Apollo, I will give him a proper cloak and tunic, fine clothes and sandals, and a two-edged sword and dagger, sharp enough to ward away both men and dogs, and I will help him go wherever he desires to go." With quick intake of breath, Telemachus replied, "No, mother, no one has a better right than I to give the bow to anyone or to refuse it. No one on this island or out towards the pasture lands of Elis, and no man in this house can force my hand, even if I should choose to give the bow to him to take away. Go up and work with loom and distaff. Tell your girls the same. The bow is work for men, especially me. I am the one with power in this house." She was amazed, and went back to her room, taking to heart her son's assertive words. Inside her bedroom with her girls, she wept for her dear husband, her Odysseus, until clear-eyed Athena let her sleep. Meanwhile, the swineherd lifted up the bow. The suitors made an uproar. "Dirty pig man! Where are you taking it? Are you insane? The dogs you raised yourself will eat you up when you are out there with your pigs alone, if we find favor with Apollo and the other deathless gods." He was afraid, because there were so many people shouting inside the hall, and set the bow he carried down on the ground. Telemachus called out, in forceful tones, "No, Grandpa, keep on going. Keep carrying the bow. You will soon see you have to choose which master to obey. Though I am younger than you, I am stronger. Watch out, or I will chase you to the fields, pelting your back with stones. I wish I had an equal edge on all those who invaded my home to court my mother and make mischief. I would soon throw them out and make them pay." At that, the suitors all began to laugh. Their anger at Telemachus was gone. Eumaeus went across the hall and gave the bow to competent Odysseus, and then he summoned Euryclea, saying, "Telemachus gave orders you must lock the doors into the hall and tie them fast. If any of you women hear a noise of screaming men, stay up there in your quarters. Do not come out. Keep quiet and keep working." At that, she held her tongue and locked the doors that led into the feast hall. Philoetius scurried outside to bolt the outer gates that led into the courtyard. On the porch lay a freshly knotted cable made of byblos. With that, he tied the gates, rushed in, and sat back down, and looked towards Odysseus. The master was already handling the bow, and turning it this way and that, to see if worms had eaten at the horn while he was gone. The suitors told each other, "He stares at it as if he were an expert in bows. He acts the part. Perhaps he has a bow like this at home or plans to make one. See how this pitiful migrant fingers it." One confident young suitor said, "I hope his future luck will match how well he does in stringing it." So, he had tricked them all. After examining the mighty bow carefully, inch by inch, as easily as an experienced musician stretches a sheep-gut string around a lyre's peg and makes it fast, Odysseus, with ease, strung the great bow. He held it in his right hand and plucked the string, which sang like swallow song, a clear, sweet note. The suitors, horrified, grew pale, and Zeus made ominous thunder rumble. Odysseus, who had so long been waiting, was glad to hear the signal from the son of double-dealing Cronus. He took up an arrow, which was lying on the table. The others were all packed up in the quiver, soon to be used. He laid it on the bridge, then pulled the notch end and the string together, still sitting in his chair. With careful aim, he shot. The weighted tip of bronze flew through each axe head and then out the other side. He told his son, "Telemachus, your guess does you a credit. I hit all the targets and with no effort strung the bow. I am still strong, despite their jibes about my weakness. Though it is daytime, it is time to feast, and later we can celebrate with music, the joyful part of dinner." With his eyebrows he signaled, and his son strapped on his sword, picked up his spear, and stood beside his chair, next to his father, his bronze weapons flashing. Book 22, Bloodshed. Odysseus ripped off his rags. Now naked, he leapt upon the threshold with his bow and quiver full of arrows, which he tipped out in a rush before his feet, and spoke. "Playtime is over. I will shoot again, towards another mark no man has hit. Apollo, may I manage it?" He aimed his deadly arrow at Antinous. The young man sat there, just about to lift his golden goblet, swirling wine around, ready to drink. He had no thought of death. How could he? Who would think a single man, among so many banqueters, would dare to risk dark death, however strong he was? Odysseus aimed at his throat, then shot. The point pierced all the way through his soft neck. He flopped down to the side and his cup slipped out of his hand, and then thick streams of blood gushed from his nostrils. His foot twitched and knocked the table down. Food scattered on the ground. The bread and roasted meat were soiled with blood. Seeing him fall, the suitors, in an uproar, with shouts that filled the hall, jumped up and rushed to search around by all the thick stone walls for shields or swords to grab. But there were none. They angrily rebuked Odysseus. "Stranger, you shot a man, and you will pay. You will join no more games. You have to die. For certain, you have killed the best young man in all of Ithaca. Right here, the vultures will eat your corpse." Those poor fools did not know that he had killed Antinous on purpose, nor that the snares of death were round them all. Clever Odysseus scowled back and sneered, "Dogs! So you thought I would not come back home from Troy? And so you fleeced my house, and raped my slave girls, and you flirted with my wife while I am still alive. You did not fear the gods who live in heaven, and you thought no man would ever come to take revenge. Now you are trapped inside the snares of death." At that, pale fears seized all of them. They groped to find a way to save their lives somehow. Only Eurymachus found words to answer. "If it is you, Odysseus, come back. Then we agree. Quite right, the Greeks have done outrageous things to your estate and home. But now the one responsible is dead, Antinous. It was all his idea. He did not even really want your wife, but had another plan, which Zeus has foiled, to lie in ambush for your son and kill him, then seize the throne and rule in Ithaca. Now he is slain, quite rightly. Please, my lord, have mercy on your people. We will pay in public, yes, for all the food and drink. We each will bring the price of 20 oxen and pay you all the gold and bronze you want. Your anger is quite understandable." Odysseus saw through him. With a glare, he told him, "Even if you give me all your whole inheritance, and even more, I will not keep my hands away from slaughter until I pay you suitors back for all your wickedness. You have two choices. Fight or run away. Just try to save your lives. Not one of you will get away from death." At that, their knees grew weak. Their hearts stopped still. Eurymachus again addressed the suitors. "My friends, this man will not hold back his hands. Seizing the bow and arrows, he will shoot us right from that polished threshold till he kills each one of us. Be quick, make plans for battle. Draw out your swords, use tables as your shields against the deadly arrows. All together, rush at him, try to drive him off the threshold, and out of doors, then run all through the town, and quickly call for help. This man will soon have shot his last." He drew his sharp bronze sword, and with a dreadful scream he leapt at him. But that same instant, Lord Odysseus let fly and hit his chest, beside the nipple, and instantly the arrow pierced his liver. The sword fell from his hand. He doubled up and fell across the table, spilling food and wine across the floor. He smashed his head against the ground, and in his desperate pain kicked up the chair, and darkness drenched his eyes. Amphinomus attacked Odysseus. He drew his sharp sword, hoping he could force him to yield his place. Telemachus leapt in and thrust his bronze spear through him from behind, ramming it through his back and out his chest. Face first, he crashed and thudded to the ground. Telemachus dashed back. He left his spear stuck in the body. He was terrified that if he bent to pull it out, some Greek would jump on him and stab him with a sword. He ran and quickly reached his loyal father. He stood beside him, and his words flew out. "Now, father, I will fetch a shield for you, and 2 spears and a helmet made of bronze. And I will arm myself, and bring more arms for our 2 herdsmen, since we all need weapons." Odysseus, the master planner, answered, "Run fast while I still have a stock of arrows, before they force me from the doors. I am fighting alone up here." His son obeyed. He hurried to the storeroom for the arms, and took 8 spears, 4 shields, and 4 bronze helmets, each fitted out with bushy horsehair plumes. He hurried back to take them to his father, and was the first to strap the armor on. The 2 slaves also armed themselves, and stood flanking their brilliant, resourceful leader. As long as he had arrows, he kept shooting, and one by one he picked the suitors off, inside his own home. Then at last the king ran out of arrows. He set down his bow next to the sturdy doorpost, leaning up against the palace walls, all shining white. He slung the 4-fold shield across his shoulders, and put the well-made helmet on his head. The crest of horsehair gave a fearsome nod. He grasped a bronze-tipped spear in either hand. There was a back gate in the castle walls, providing access to the passageway with tightly fitted doors. Odysseus ordered the noble swineherd to stand there to guard it. There was only one way out. Agelaus called out to all the suitors. "Friends, one of us should slip out through that gate and quickly tell the people. Raise alarms. That soon would put a stop to this man's shooting." Melanthius the goatherd answered, "No, my lord, that entryway is much too narrow and dangerously near the palace doors. One man, if he was brave, could keep it guarded against us all. So I will bring you armor out of the storeroom, which I think is where those two, our enemies, have hidden it." Melanthius the goatherd climbed up past the arrow slits inside the castle walls, into the chamber. There he took 12 shields, 12 spears, and 12 bronze helmets, each one crested with horsehair. Then he hurried back downstairs and handed all the weapons to the suitors. Odysseus could see that they had arms. Their spears were brandished. His heart stopped. His legs trembled. He was so shocked at their presumption. At once his words flew out to tell his son, "One of the women, or Melanthius, is waging war against us in my house." Wisely, Telemachus owned up at once. "Father, it was my fault. I am to blame. I left the heavy storeroom door ajar. Someone on their side must have kept good watch. Go there, Eumaeus, shut the door, and see if any of the women are against us, or else, as I suspect, Melanthius." Meanwhile, Melanthius was going back to get more weapons from the room. The swineherd saw him and told Odysseus, "My lord, that little sneak, the man we all suspected, is going to the stores. Odysseus, you always have a plan for what to do. So, should I kill him, as I think is best, or bring him here to you, so you can punish as many crimes against you in your house?" Odysseus already had a plan. "Telemachus and I will keep the suitors trapped in the hall, however much they rage. You two, truss up his hands and feet behind him, drag him inside the storeroom, string him up, tying a knotted rope high on the column, and hoist him to the rafters. Torture him with hours of agony before he dies." His word was their command. They hurried off, and reached the weaponry. Melanthius was unaware of them. As he was searching for arms, they stopped on each side of the door and waited. When he stepped across the threshold, holding a lovely helmet in one hand, and in the other hand a rusty shield, once carried by Laertes in his youth, but now in storage, with its seams all loose. The two men jumped on him and grabbed his hair to drag him in and threw him on the floor, shaking with fear. They bound his hands and feet and yanked them painfully behind his back, just as the Lord of Suffering had told them. They tied him with a knotted rope and hoisted his body up the column to the rafters. Swineherd Eumaeus, you began to mock him. "Keep watch the whole night through, Melanthius, tucked up in this soft bed. Serves you right. And wait there for the golden throne of dawn leaving the sea, that hour when you would lead your goats to this house for the suitors' dinner." There he was left, bound cruelly and stretched. The herdsmen armed themselves and left the room, shutting the door, and joined their cunning leader. They stood there on the threshold, tense with purpose, just 4 against so many men inside. The child of Zeus, Athena, came to meet them. Her voice and looks resembled those of Mentor. Odysseus was happy when he saw her, and said, "Remember our old friendship, Mentor. I have been good to you since we were boys, so help me now." He guessed it was Athena, who rouses armies. From the hall, the suitors shouted their opposition. Agelaus called, "Mentor, do not let Odysseus sway you to help him and to fight against us. I think this is how things will go. When we have killed this father and his son, you will die also, if you do as you intend, and pay with your own life for all your plots. Our bronze will strip your life away from you, and we will seize whatever you may own and mix it with the loot we get from here. Your sons will not survive here in these halls, nor will your wife and daughters still walk free in Ithaca." At that, Athena's heart became enraged, and angrily she scolded Odysseus. "Where is your courage now? You fought 9 years on end against the Trojans, for white-armed Helen, Zeus's favorite child. You slaughtered many men when war was raging, and formed the plan that made the city fall. Now you are home at last. How can you flinch from being brave and using proper force against these suitors? Come now, stand by me and watch how Mentor, son of Alcimus, will treat your enemies as recompense for all your service." But she did not grant decisive victory. She kept on testing Odysseus's courage, and his son's. She flew up like a swallow through the smoke and nestled in the rafters of the roof. Now Agelaus, Demoptolemus, Eurynomus, Pisander, Amphimedon, and Polybus were urging on the suitors. Those were the most heroic of the group who still survived and battled for their lives. The others were defeated by the bow and raining arrows. Agelaus told them, "That mentor's boasts were empty, friends. He left, and they are all alone there at the entrance. Now force this cruel man to stay his hands. Do not hurl spears at him all in a mass. But you 6 must shoot first, and pray, Lord Zeus, we strike Odysseus and win the fight. Once he is down, the others will be nothing." The 6 men threw their spears as he had said. At once Athena made their efforts fail. One pierced the doorpost of the palace hall, another hit the closely fitted door, another's spear of ash and heavy bronze fell on the wall. The group of 4 avoided all of the suitors' spears. Odysseus had waited long enough. "My friends," he said, "they want to slaughter us and strip our arms. Avenge my former wrongs, and save your lives. Now shoot!" They hurled their spears at once and hit. Odysseus killed Demoptolemus, Telemachus, Euryades. The swineherd slaughtered Elatus, and the cowherd killed Pisander. They all fell and bit the earth. The other suitors huddled in a corner. The 4 rushed up and from the corpses pulled their spears. Again the suitors threw their weapons. Again Athena made them fail. One spear struck at the doorpost, and another pierced the door. Another ash spear hit the wall. Amphimedon's blow grazed Telemachus right by the wrist. The bronze tore through his skin. Tisippus hurled his spear. It only scratched the swineherd's shoulder, just above his shield, flew past, and fell down on the floor behind him. The competent, sharp-eyed Odysseus and his companions hurled their piercing spears into the swarming throng. The city sacker skewered Eurydamas. Telemachus slashed Amphimedon, and the swineherd struck at Polybus. The cowherd sliced right through Tisippus's chest, and crowed, "You fool! You loved insulting us. Now you have stopped your boasting. The gods have got the last word. They have won. This is a gift to pay you for that kick you gave Odysseus when he walked through his own house, as a homeless man in need." Odysseus moved closer with his spear, and pierced Agelaus. Telemachus thrust at Leocritus, and drove his bronze into his belly. He fell down head first, face smashed against the floor. Then from the roof Athena lifted high her deadly aegis. The frightened suitors bolted through the hall like cattle, roused and driven by a gadfly in springtime, when the days are getting longer. As vultures with their crooked beaks and talons swoop from the hills and pounce on smaller birds that fly across the fields beneath the clouds, the victims have no help and no way out, as their attackers slaughter them, and men watch and enjoy the violence. So these 4 fighters sprang and struck, and drove the suitors in all directions. Screaming filled the hall, as skulls were cracked. The whole floor ran with blood. Leiades started up to supplicate Odysseus. He touched his knees. "Please, mercy! I did no wrong, I swear, in word or deed to any of the women in this house. I tried to stop the suitors, tried to urge them to keep their hands clean, but they would not listen. Those fools deserved their fate. But I did nothing. I am a priest, yet I must lie with them. Will good behavior go unrewarded?" The calculating hero scowled at him. "If, as you claim, you sacrificed for them, you must have often prayed here in my hall that I would not regain the joys of home, and that my wife would marry you instead, and bear you children. You will not escape. Suffer and die." Agelaus had dropped his sword when he was killed. With his strong arm Odysseus swung, slashed down and sliced right through the priest's neck, and his head, still framing words, rolled in the dust. The poet Phemius, who had been forced to sing to please the suitors, was huddling by the back door with his lyre, anxiously considering his choices: to slip outside and crouch beneath the altar of mighty Zeus, the god of homeowners, where his old masters burned so many thigh bones, or he could run towards Odysseus and grasp him by the knees and beg for mercy. He made his mind up. He would supplicate. He set his hollow lyre on the ground between the mixing bowl and silver chair, and dashed to take Odysseus's knees, beseeching him in quivering winged words. "I beg you, Lord Odysseus, have mercy. Think, if you kill me now, you will be sorry. I have the power to sing for gods and men. I am self-taught. All kinds of song are planted by gods inside my heart. I am prepared to sing for you as if before a god. Wait, do not cut my throat. Just ask your son. He will explain it was against my will that I came here to sing for them after dinner. They were too fierce and they outnumbered me. I had no choice." Then strong Telemachus turned quickly to his father, saying, "Stop, hold up your sword. This man is innocent. And let us also save the houseboy, Medon. He always cared for me when I was young, unless the herdsmen have already killed him, or he already met you in your rage." Medon was sensible. He had been hiding under a chair, beneath a fresh cowhide, in order to escape from being killed. Hearing these words, he jumped up from the chair, took off the cowhide, and assumed the pose of supplication near Telemachus, and said, "Friend, here I am. Please spare my life. Your father is too strong and furious against the suitors, who skimmed off his wealth and failed to honor you. Please talk to him." Canny Odysseus smiled down and said, "You need not worry. He has saved your life. So live and spread the word that doing good is far superior to wickedness. Now leave the hall and go outside. Sit down, joining the famous singer in the courtyard, so I can finish what I have to do inside my house." The two men went outside and crouched by Zeus's altar, on the lookout for death at any moment all around. Odysseus scanned all around his home for any man who might be still alive, who might be hiding to escape destruction. He saw them fallen, all of them, so many, lying in blood and dust, like fish hauled up out of the dark gray sea in fine mesh nets. Tipped out upon the curving beach's sand, they gasped for water from the salty sea. So lay the suitors, heaped across each other. Odysseus, still scheming, told his son, "I need to say something to Euryclea. Hurry, Telemachus, and bring her here." Telemachus was glad to please his father. He pushed the door ajar and called the nurse. "Nanny, come quick. You have been here for years. You supervise the female palace slaves. My father has to talk to you. Come on." She had no words to answer him, but opened the doors into the great and sturdy hall. Telemachus went first and led the way. Among the corpses of the slaughtered men, she saw Odysseus all smeared with blood. After a lion eats a grazing ox, its chest and jowls are thick with blood all over. A dreadful sight. Just so, Odysseus had blood all over him, from hands to feet. Seeing the corpses, seeing all that blood, so great a deed of violence, she began to crow. Odysseus told her to stop, and spoke with fluent words. "Old woman, no! Be glad inside your heart, but do not shout. It is not pious, gloating over men who have been killed. Divine fate took them down, and their own wicked deeds. They disrespected all people that they met, both bad and good. Through their own crimes they came to this bad end. But tell me now about the household women. Which ones dishonor me, and which are pure?" The slave who loved her master answered, "Child, I will tell you exactly how things stand. In this house we have 50 female slaves whom we have trained to work, to card the wool, and taught to tolerate their life as slaves. 12 stepped away from honor. Those 12 girls ignore me, and Penelope, our mistress. She would not let Telemachus instruct them, since he is young and only just grown up. Let me go upstairs to the women's rooms to tell your wife. Some god has sent her sleep." The master strategist Odysseus said, "Not yet. Do not wake her. Call the women who made those treasonous plots while I was gone." The old nurse did so. Walking through the hall, she called the girls. Meanwhile, Odysseus summoned the herdsmen and Telemachus and spoke winged words to them. "Now we must start to clear the corpses out. The girls must help. Then clean my stately chairs and handsome tables with sponges fine as honeycomb, and water. When the whole house is set in proper order, restore my halls to health. Take out the girls between the courtyard wall and the rotunda. Hack at them with long swords, eradicate all life from them. They will forget the things the suitors made them do with them in secret, through Aphrodite." Sobbing desperately, the girls came, weeping, clutching at each other. They carried out the bodies of the dead and piled them up on top of one another, under the roof outside. Odysseus instructed them and forced them to continue, and then they cleaned his lovely chairs and tables with wet absorbent sponges, while the prince and herdsmen with their shovels scraped away the mess to make the sturdy floor all clean. The girls picked up the trash and took it out. The men created order in the house and set it all to rights, then led the girls outside and trapped them. They could not escape, between the courtyard wall and the rotunda. Showing initiative, Telemachus insisted, "I refuse to grant these girls a clean death, since they poured down shame on me and mother when they lay beside the suitors." At that, he wound a piece of sailor's rope round the rotunda and round the mighty pillar, stretched up so high no foot could touch the ground. As doves or thrushes spread their wings to fly home to their nests, but someone sets a trap. They crash into a net, a bitter bedtime. Just so the girls, their heads all in a row, were strung up with the noose around their necks to make their death an agony. They gasped, feet twitching for a while, but not for long. Then the men took Melanthius outside, and with curved bronze cut off his nose and ears and ripped away his genitals, to feed raw to the dogs. Still full of rage, they chopped his hands and feet off. Then they washed their own, and they went back inside. Odysseus told his beloved nurse, "Now bring me fire and sulfur, as a cure for evil things, and I will fumigate the house. And call Penelope, her slaves, and all the slave girls inside the house." She answered with affection, "Yes, dear, all this is good, but let me bring a cloak and shirt for you. You should not stand here, your strong back covered only with those rags. That would be wrong." Odysseus, the master of every cunning scheme, replied, "No, first I need a fire here to smoke the hall." His loving slave complied and brought the fire and sulfur, and Odysseus made smoke and fumigated every room inside the house and yard. Meanwhile, the old nurse ran all through the palace summoning the women. By torchlight they came out from their apartments to greet Odysseus with open arms. They kissed his face and took him by the hands in welcome. He was seized by sweet desire to weep, and in his heart he knew them all.